I'm WFAE's David Borax, and this is R&D in the QC. Tariq, Bokhari, and Larken Egleston, one Republican and one Democrat who bonded as first-term Charlotte City Council members. Somehow, they both got reelected, and now we're stuck listening to another season of this amateur hour bullshit. In the first 82 episodes, they talked to a governor, a senator, presidential candidates, and even a journalist or two. Their goal again this season, bringing Charlotte listeners behind the scenes of the city council in one of America's fastest-growing cities. I won't be listening, but for some reason you are.
Episode 116, a rapid-fire recap of the last 8 months, the election, swearing in with special guest, Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston, Capital Tonight, Charlotte Correspondents, and the AllStar race.
Welcome to R&D in the QC, episode 116. From a 8-month break, we are back. Post-council swearing in. We will have the Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston on 2 days into his new role in our second segment. But first, we're going to catch you up on 8 months.
Well, all right. So here's the game, Larken. Are you ready for this? We talked this episode would literally recapping 8 months would take 6 days. So you've got under 60-second clock to bring everyone up to speed on what they've missed in the last 8 months. Can you do it, sir?
I cannot, but I'm going to list some things and you fill in the blanks of what I forgot. Here are some of the things you have not heard us talk about since our January episode of R&D in the QC.
Go.
Don't time me because it's not going to be possible. Besides an election, which we'll touch on a little bit more here in a second, we have had things from the Tepper Sports pulling out of a Rock Hill deal and an Eastland Mall site deal. We've had the groundbreaking of that same Eastland Mall. We have had a transit plan that hasn't really moved from where it was in January. That's one thing that hasn't changed.
Non-news.
We've had an agreement with the city and the Hornets on not only Spectrum Center updates, but also moving towards a plan on revamping the whole transportation center down there by the arena. We have approved social districts. South Park in Tariq's District 6 got its own municipal service district. I don't know when we officially finalized the redistricting for our elections, but that might have been since the last episode too. Or around that time. So pretty much everything in the city has changed except our transit plan in the 8 months since we've been with you. And so we're not going to try to talk about all that. We assume
you've forgotten a couple. Let me just toss a few out. Centene pulling out. Bank of London coming in. The buses don't run on time.
Is that news?
No.
Lots has changed.
The good news is all the things that happened were counterbalanced by things that didn't happen or went wrong. So net neutral, guys, you didn't miss anything on the macro.
Yeah. And I assume if you're listening to our podcast, you probably follow along at least somewhat to the news and know a little bit about what's happened there.
Election, Larken, bring us now up to speed on an election that also occurred.
So after 2 delays, we filed in March. There were a couple of surprises or pseudo surprises. I had obviously switched from running for my District 1 seat for a third term to running for one of the 4 citywide at-large seats, expecting there to be 2 vacancies, and knowing former Councilwoman Luana Mayfield was going to run, thought that she and I would slot right into those 2 being vacated by Julie Islett and Greg Phipps. As it turns out, the delays allowed for a situation where former Councilmember James Mitchell, better known as Smudgy, and former Councilmember and Mayor Patrick Cannon, who you might remember, both decided they were going to file as well on the final day of filing. That certainly threw a wrench in my plans. I finished 5th. And so as of 2 days ago, I'm no longer on the Charlotte City Council. Councilman Mitchell and Mayfield were reelected, back on council now. Patrick Cannon was not, thankfully. I think that would have been a distraction the city
Side note to longtime listeners of the pod who are glad to have us back. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. You'll recall in previous episodes when I was pushing for the at-large and mayor races to be held in November of last year at their normal time. Had that occurred, Larken would likely be on council right now. Can't look back, but ultimately that time difference would have not allowed Cannon to run, who got the BBC endorsement.
He wouldn't have had his voting rights restored yet.
Voting rights weren't restored yet. And Councilman Smudgy Mitchell hadn't yet fully exited the company that he was still part of there. And he also got the BBC endorsement. So you lost the BBC endorsement because of that. And then ultimately we're 5th behind Smudgy. So Larken, you got to start listening to me, bud.
Yeah, I'm sure that was all part of your master plan, was anticipating those curveballs. Um, so there were no big surprises in the primary. Had two new members who were effectively elected in May because they didn't have opponents in July. So that was Marjorie Molina in District 5, replacing outgoing Councilmember Matt Newton, who's going to be a district court judge effective, I think, the 1st of January. And then Dante Anderson, who won a three-way primary to succeed me in the District 1 seat. With a revamped District 1, I might add. You picked up parts of District 1 and District 5. So, I mean, yeah. So for folks who think Tariq is or isn't their representative, you might want to look at the map again. He might be now. I'm sorry for that.
Yes. And
Sorry for you.
side note, I'm slightly debating breaking the law in the future just so I have to go in front of Judge Newton and see what that experience is like.
I would set aside a couple of days for that.
I'm not.
It'd be every trial is going to be like the OJ trial. It's going to be like months long.
Did you traverse the site in question? We joke. We love
Matt Newton, but he's long-winded.
He's verbose. We understand that. Two items I'll mention rapid fire because we got to get through and get this podcast back in regular production. We have a lot to cover. From the election side, one, I had a very tough election against a very capable opponent.
Now we're talking about the July general election.
Right. Now we've moved. You got to move fast, Larken. It's fast-paced R&D in the QC. Brand new model here. She was in every interaction I had with her, very lovely. I think she's very capable. She has a future in this stuff. And she came very close to beating me there. I think there were some other factors that made it closer than normal that we would have experienced at this time. But I wish her the best running at large next time, where I believe she'll be mayor pro tem likely in that scenario. And number two,
You're just hoping she runs at large because every year that passes, her chances of beating you increase.
Well,
and she might have beaten you. She might have beaten you this time had you not run a slate of at-large candidates.
And she might have not gotten as close as she did if every single person on the ticket was all focused and spending money in my district against me. But regardless, she can make that determination. I will absolutely be a fan of hers no matter what, but she can decide, can I roll the dice again and see if I can get close or things change against Tariq, or can I run and absolutely win at large? That's a decision she has to make.
Here's an idea for the next episode or a future episode soon. I think we bring Stephanie Hand on and we talk to her about the race that you guys ran against each other. I will say,
I'd do that.
I've heard from both of y'all that there is a level of respect there,
totally.
Appreciation and friendship. So I think she'd be open to that. And I think our viewers would enjoy hearing that.
I think it's likely she'd be mayor pro tem if she had run at large in this race.
I think that's certainly.
I think she would have gotten the crossover vote that folks like Julie Eiselt used to get. Putting that aside, second thing I just mentioned is I worked long and hard to put together a Republican slate, all first-time candidates. Worked closely with them every day. Loved to get to know and work with them. They were amazing folks, and I think the two sidebars there are, other than me being just sad and depressed that none of them got in. One, we have a very strong bench now of folks who are going to grow in the future, maybe get on committees, get in other roles and do things. That's what I did in the early 2000s after my losses. And then I made it back on. That's what they will hopefully do. And regardless of if you love or hate Republicans, I think everyone knows a city with some balance makes some sense. And if you don't have a bench and people just vote for balance, you can get some real bad results. So we have a bench there. And two, I just real special.
And I'll say I made I took a dig at you there, and I meant it. But I do think that competitive elections are healthy, and I do think people should have options. And so I think that candidates who have to earn their way onto a board like the Charlotte City Council by winning and by going out and saying what they're about and defending their stances are better for it.
And nobody worked harder than those candidates to a person. They literally walked and knocked almost every day, definitely every weekend. They put their hearts and souls into it. And a very special shout out to Kyle Lubke and Charlie Mulligan, who were clearly leaders. They've clearly been engaged and paying attention, even though they were first-time candidates. And I'm just so proud of all of them, but especially the effort of those folks, and especially to Charlie, who was the heart and soul of the team behind the scenes. The public didn't see all the work he did to make that thing come to life. And especially to Kyle Lubke, who is a gay Republican. And I'm going to tell you something. being a gay conservative, gay Republican, and going out, that's counterculture-esque right now. And it is not without, if you talk to him and his husband about these things, or fiance, you will know that they lost friends, that they had to go through a lot, and that takes bravery. And I just want to recognize both of them for that.
I agree with you on Kyle. He's a great dude. Didn't get to know Charlie as well, but no, again, I think it's healthy. Democracy works best when voters have options, and they had options. So
Swearing in.
Once again, the rapid fire round is going very well.
Going well. Swearing in.
Swearing in. So 2 days ago, we had the swearing in, and I think I've already mentioned all of us who departed, but it was me leaving the District 1 seat, Matt Newton leaving the District 5 seat, Mayor Pro Tem Julie Eisel leaving at-large seat after 7 years, and Greg Phipps, who I guess a year and a half ago we appointed to the vacancy when James Mitchell departed, rolled off from his at-large seat, which we knew he would. So the four of us were replaced by, interestingly, Greg Phipps was replaced by Smudgy Mitchell, the man that he replaced a year and a half ago. Julie Eisel was replaced by Luana Mayfield, although there's no direct replacement there, but for the sake of the story. And then Marjorie Molina in District 5 replacing Matt Newton, and Dante Anderson replacing me. And I think certainly you know what you get with Smudgy and Luana. Both have tons of experience on the city council, know the job already. There's no learning curve there. But I think Marjorie and Dante coming in new, there's obviously going to be a learning curve. They're a bit green in that way, but I think they're going to both excel. I know you've had a chance to talk to both of them, and I think been equally impressed. And so I'm very optimistic about the two of them.
Yeah, just to take on the new council, what I'm especially interested, excited, hopeful for, one, getting to know Marjorie and Dante has been very nice. I think they're both very smart. Dante went to MIT. Like, you know, that's
before going to NYU and then Harvard, and got a degree from each.
I don't really care about those other two, but MIT is impressive to me. I think she's going to be sharp as a tack on there and do really well. I think the exact same thing of Marjorie. I've gotten to communicate a bunch with her. She's a consensus builder. She's very smart. I think those two are going to be really great additions once they kind of ramp
up. Our listeners have not had a chance to really meet them.
Let's bring them on.
We need to put them on the short list for guests soon too.
Absolutely. And then I think the only other things are I am cautiously optimistic for Braxton Winston being mayor pro tem. We will talk, and you'll hear more about that in the segment to come. But I think the one thing I'd say there is, you know, I've gotten a lot of questions. Why would you support him? Why would you have voted for him? You know, there's the outside headlines, and then there's the inside baseball, what's happening. And we've had a very painful 3 years. And my hope is that he can do a job in this mayor pro tem role with this new council that will ultimately maybe counteract some of the disruption, the things that are challenging, so that we're not arguing behind the dais. We know what's going on ahead of time, and we're just having public dialogue there, not learning about things for the first time and stuff like that. So that, and then I'm excited to have Luana back, to be quite honest, because she and I do not agree on everything, not even closely. And we've butted heads on some things she's done and said in the past where I'm not afraid to call it out, much like she's not afraid to call things out. But the one thing I will always respect about Luana is the same thing. I think I'll speak for you on this as well, is you know where she stands on something, and she'll tell you early on. And if she changes her position, she will also tell you that. There's no positioning and jockeying. There's no, I'm going to wait and see what's up.
Games.
I'm going to and that shooting. Is, after 5 years of this, I will tell you that is priceless.
Absolutely. She is genuine, and she is fun. And, you know, I don't agree with her on everything. We're in the same party. But I do like her a lot as a person, and I liked her as a colleague 9 times out of 10. I think she's backed off of some of the conspiracy tweets that got her in most of her own hot water. And the fact of the matter is, she does the work. She's there to do the job.
Exactly. She already called. She called me last night and said, "Hey, can you fill me in on this rezoning and what's going on over there down the street from my house?" And I was
already grinding.
Wow, yeah. That's grinding.
And probably the only phone call you'll get.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, now that Phipps is off council. So one other bit of news about a friend of ours who we've talked to, and we're going to have on the show here soon, Marcus Smith from Speedway Motorsports, but it was just announced today, this morning. There were some rumors about it, but it was confirmed today that the 2023 NASCAR All-Star race will be coming back to North Carolina, not to Charlotte, though, to North Wilkesboro Speedway, which had been shuttered for 2 decades almost. And they just reopened it with there was some money from the federal funds that were put into renovating some tracks around the country for economic development. And it has absolutely had the impact I think that it was designed to have, because even just these kind of minor league racing series that was there a couple weeks ago sold out. And Dale Jr. was there in one of the cars. It was a huge shot in the arm to that North Wilkesboro area that has been decimated in terms of job losses, and the Speedway leaving was a huge hit. And now they're going to bring the top level of American motorsports to North Wilkesboro and hold the All-Star race there. It is going to be incredible.
That is wild.
So we're going to talk to Marcus about that soon.
It's true. It's truly wild to think about how, again, we always talk about what's good for Charlotte, it's good for North Carolina. What applies here is what's good for North Wilkesboro is great for North Wilkesboro and really good for North Carolina as a whole too. This is a win-win-win, and just another proof point that when folks get together, strike good deals, public-private partnerships are figured out, big things can happen. And I mean, I can't imagine a bigger, more relevant shot in the arm. I know this isn't going to be the end-all solution, but it will be a material solution that could become the jumpstart of an engine.
I think it gives people hope that not just for North Wilkesboro, but that towns like these that have taken a lot of hits over the last decade or two can have a renaissance. And so I'm excited for it. I know Marcus is pumped. We'll get him on here. We'll talk about that much more in depth. And also, we want to make sure that folks know that if we apologize for the 8 months absence. We're going to get back into doing the podcast with some kind of cadence. But there is another option now to get your R&D in the QC fixed. We now, over the last, what's it been, 6 weeks maybe, have become weekly guests on Capital Tonight with Tim Boyum, which you can find on Spectrum News. And it's a 7 p.m. show, Monday through Friday. The day we're on changes from week to week, so you just have to watch Tim every night. But he hosts, great host. He's got people on from all across the state. It gives us an opportunity to not just talk about mostly Charlotte-specific issues on the podcast, but to talk about things that Charlotte is involved in, but that have an impact statewide, or things that are going on statewide that have an impact on Charlotte. And so it's been a lot of fun. We've been friends with Tim for a while and are grateful for that opportunity. But tune in there and catch us as we talk about a little bit different subject matter.
Tim's a great dude. We've known him for a while, but I think the one really unique thing about this experience that it's been for us, Larken, is that 116 episodes we've done of this podcast over 5 years, right? Most of them heavy loaded on the front and middle end of that. But we never really, we always make our agendas and then kind of go through it. We never stepped back and said, oh, well, what's relevant? It was always Charlotte City Council events, what we're talking about. And then we go. This has had to have us step back and say, okay, what's going on in this region and what is the relevance statewide? And it really makes you stop and think. And it's a great exercise when we think about I'm a Charlotte kind of focus in here first, but I fully recognize the regional implications and the regional impacts and how we have to partner there. And it is a great exercise.
And some of the things that you guys are going to have to tackle in the next year, if you don't approach them with that regional, how does this impact and affect everybody else mindset, you won't get there. So,
and the difference there even is the nuance is there's Charlotte, there's the 17 county region around us, but then there's the broader state. And we've jumped right up to that broader state level because there might be somebody in Asheville or Wilmington or Greenville or Larken, name me 2 other like totally randomly geographic places.
Murphy and Manio.
And I mean, they're like, why do I care about a UDO? Right. So I think it's just a good exercise and fun. And we knew Tim and the great Capital Tonight folks were interested in, they're statewide, but they're Raleigh heavy. So I know that they were so I think it's been a win-win so far. I think the question for us is, can we keep the content of local importance, but statewide relevance flowing? And that'll be a good challenge for us to figure out.
Well, and we know by virtue of the fact that you're listening to us that you listen to podcasts, and I will highly recommend.
Yeah.
Tim's is one of the few podcasts I listen to with great regularity. It's called Tying It Together. It's a play on words because he wears bow ties all the time. He gets really good guests, and it's from people from Murphy to Manio, and it's a lot of the old guard of North Carolina politics and a lot of the folks that are kind of right in the mix and in power now. And he's very nonpartisan and does a great job with his interviews. So I highly recommend that podcast if you are into political podcasts, which you must be.
So watch that, listen to that, do all that. You know what you've got in the rapid fire round? Steph Curry's key to the city.
What is that key accomplished, Tariq?
Well, Larken, a lot of people don't know this, but it actually.
Please don't tell that joke a third time.
Oh.
We did give Steph Curry a key to the city. That wasn't on our outline here.
We're best friends now.
I doubt it. I think it's time for Mr. Winston.
All right, folks.
Mayor Pro Tem Winston.
Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston III. Up next, folks.
He's the second.
Oh, is he the second?
His son is Braxton Winston III. But good try.
Braxton Winston, Mayor Pro Tem II. Up next, folks. All right, welcome back to the pod. With us, a very, very special and famous guest at this point, Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston. Braxton, welcome back to a show that's been off the air for a while now, coming out of the grave. I'll ask the first question. You're Mayor Pro Tem. What has your week been like so far?
Well, it's been quite a week. First, welcome back. You know, I do believe R&D and the QC, however you feel about it or about the folks on it, people value the information that comes out here. You guys definitely have, obviously, a view on things and a knowledge.
What do you mean, however you feel about it?
And you have a view on things.
If people don't like it, they can press fast forward.
No, well, but that's the thing. I've heard and seen and talked to people that you guys rub them the wrong way, but they
guess what? They don't have to tune in. They don't have to tune in.
Look, but they listen to it because they learn. They learn. You know.
Look, Larken's just a regular citizen now, man. He doesn't care about us and stuff anymore. But tell us about your week.
It was Monday was I thought Tuesday, excuse me, was an incredible day. Larken, thank you for your words. The council members who left, I think they'll be missed. And I think the new council members are going to be great additions. And it was a culmination Tuesday evening, of course, with the Mayor Pro Tem vote. It was a culmination of a lot of work behind the scenes of us on council together. And I think we showed a unified stance. And I think we really got this term started off on the right foot, a powerful foot. Not about me per se, but about the way we're able to work together to get things done, to get difficult things done. I was here to be able to celebrate it with my mother, and the reception from the community has been incredible. The reception from colleagues, most importantly, has been incredible. I think we're ready to get to work, and that's something that I feel is very exciting.
That's a great picture of you and your mom on the cover of the paper today, by the way. I hope you got a hard copy of that.
Yeah, I bet she's super proud. You could tell how proud she was.
I had a meeting with the manager yesterday, and she was scouring around the city for it because we got a tip from an observer that I
don't know if that was maybe that was yesterday, not today.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't yesterday, but we got the photo of it today. As we're having this interview, and we definitely went up to the local 7-Eleven and the supermarket and bought them out. So. Definitely.
It was a great picture and a great moment, and congratulations to you. So as someone who at that point was watching as a citizen, it was pretty well known, at least by those of us in the building, that the decision had been made to coalesce around you. Were you caught off guard by the substitute motion, or you knew that was coming?
Great question. I was caught off guard, but again, I'm not in the inner circle of of the majority.
You guys are on Charlotte City Council for 5 years and you guys are caught off guard.
At some point, you're never surprised by anything, but I did not know it was coming.
You know, Dimple has a lot of support in the community. And that was very clear. You know, I'm grateful that I'm able to serve with somebody who means so much to so many folks. And I thought her message was gracious. And again, I think it really did add to the team effort. And it really did speak to the public that we're doing this together. We're not necessarily saying that things are easy. We're not, you know, we're being real with one another. So I appreciated it, and I appreciated all 11 hands being raised, including yours, Mr. Bokhari.
Well, listen, we'll get to that in a second. One, great question to start off, Larken, and two, great answer, Mayor Pro Tem Winston. Exactly dodged the entire question and said something super positive. You're going to do great at this. My follow-up question is more kind of looking forward, but with a backward lens as well. What have you learned from the last 3 years experience that you are the number one thing that you're going to try to apply that maybe will make this next term different from the Mayor Pro Tem's influence than some of the struggles we had in the last 3 years?
Well, I think what I really, in this past, since the end of the election, you know, I've thought about, you guys all know, I think about governance. I think about the way we do work. I think the way we get our ideas from out of our head onto a page, whether it be a policy idea or a project idea or a budgetary idea. I think all three of us, you know, as we were trying to kind of navigate the 15th floor in November and December of 2017, we had a lot of questions that we didn't necessarily get a lot of answers to of how do we go about doing these certain things. And that became pretty clear. That was kind of, I guess, reinforced in 2020, right? Obviously, starting with the pandemic, right? How do we deal with this? There was literally not a playbook, a municipal playbook. This is something I mentioned on Tuesday. There was no municipal playbook, not just for Charlotte, for anybody on how to deal with a pandemic. So we had to figure out, everybody had to figure out, whether you've been there for a couple weeks or you've been there for 30 years, of how do we start from scratch to go from an idea to important major policy. Of course, that also went into the Comp 2040 plan and the UDO, where we, with the pandemic playbook, we were on the phone with each other, like for that, especially those first 2 months, making phone trees, you know, talking to different bodies of government, coming back to one another, going back through the mayor or the manager, so that we were all, you know, had certain points of contact. But it was the opposite when it came to things like the Comprehensive 2040 plan or the UDO or the later parts of dealing with pandemic relief stuff. What we had was 11 people who were very passionate and very engaged, really kind of, you know, climbing all over ourselves. And it became clear to me that city council has to figure out a system where we work together. And I really do think, and I think our colleagues think, that the Mayor Pro Tem can and should be that role. Because if we aren't on the same page, then the mayor, the manager and staff and our partners are not necessarily going to be on the same page as us. And that causes chaos, confusion, and honestly, a lot of wasted time that our citizens don't have for us to waste. So it is really, I think, going to be the role of the Mayor Pro Tem, whether it's me or whoever else in the future, to really work with council to understand where we're at, to coalesce around issues, whether it's a 6-5 vote or 11-0 or anything in between, and to make sure that council's intent and council's will is clearly understood, and somebody is there advocating for that position, bringing clarity to it, so our professional staff is clear and they can keep their nose to the grindstone, so our mayor can understand what we want, so she can go out there, or the mayor's position can go out there and build partnerships to execute what we want to see. So I was grateful again in the conversations that we've been having over this past month and a half with each other, that I think a lot of us are pretty much on the same page. And I think we need to do some work to further codify this mayor pro tem position. But that is my idea.
All right.
Well, I'm sure you saw it last night, because I'm sure you tune in every night just to make sure you catch us on our weekly appearance on Capitol Tonight. But we gave you a shout out last night.
I'm a cord cutter, man. I don't even have that, you know.
Well, I'm sure you're getting it from some sort of antenna that you set up.
Larken, let's go lightning round. He just did a soliloquy round. Let's go lightning round. A little compliment there. The compliment we gave him last night, since he doesn't watch television, that we talked about the fact that aside from running the meetings, which you'll have to do occasionally, and I think you proved you are more than capable of doing a couple weeks ago when you had to stand in when both the mayor and mayor pro tem were out of town. But I said mayor pro tem tryouts, as I like to refer to it.
The role, as I see it, is much like a majority whip in a state house or a U.S. House, and I think you've got the relationships, and even the people who disagree with you, I think, trust you, and it's really important for somebody who's going to go around and try to get people not always on the same page, but at least a common understanding of where everybody's at. So
yeah, and I was super grateful for that, because I think a lot of people, especially folks that listen to this podcast, know that I can often not be on the majority side of certain votes, but that my colleagues have the confidence that I will, once the council makes its position, that I'm with council's position, and I will not use this or any platform to do anything but that in my role as mayor pro tem. That's very important to me. I believe in democracy. I believe in this great American experiment, and I have a high fidelity to that. So
let's go lightning round, because ready? Lightning round, 1 to 2 sentence answers. 1 to 2. 1 to 2.
It's gonna be tough for him. It's gonna be tough for him.
Real tough. This is mayor pro tem practice. Really, it's like you play sports. It's practice. Okay, ready? Here we go. What are you going to do if you're successful on unifying the voice of the council, if you get into conflicts at points topically with the mayor, where you suddenly start getting shut out of some of those conversations?
All right, hold on. To be fair, this is not really a lightning round question.
Make it 4 sentences.
Well, I think one of the things I've learned about being on the 15th floor is that you got to be in the room. You got to be around. So I'm certainly, especially now that we're not out of the pandemic, but we're in a different phase of the pandemic. I'm going to be on that 15th floor a lot more. Most importantly, I'm going to be in communication with my colleagues, all the other 10 of us. So I do understand where we're at, and I'll assert those when I'm in the rooms as necessary.
The room where it happens.
Good answer. Larken, go ahead. You got one lightning round, 1, 2. Let's go.
Oh, thanks for the heads up on this. Man, I don't know. That's tough. I've already asked most of the questions I want to ask here. I think, what are your hopes? Speak to us about what you think this council can accomplish. Again, not a lightning round question, but it's not going to be but till May or June when people start announcing whether they're running again, and obviously people are going to be looking to see what the mayor's doing. A lot of dominoes are going to fall based on what she decides. What can be accomplished between now and the filing that everyone's going to have to be participate in July of next year?
Budget season, which is even sooner.
Yeah.
Well, you guys know that we've got a lot on our table already, right? That we have to keep pushing forward, whether it be digital inclusion, whether it be economic development in corridors of opportunity, whether it be the further implementation of the comprehensive 2040 plan. We have to get the entire city rezoned. We have to start our community area planning process. But I really think we have to get an actionable item on the table around transit and transportation. whatever we as a council, I hope we'll figure out what that is, whether it's a full comprehensive plan, or it's pulling out a particular system that we're going to focus on and working on that. I think we can do that. I think that's the biggest thing that unfortunately it feels like we're starting from scratch in a lot of ways with that. But we have to get that pushed forward. And I think the community expects us and our partners expect us to do something around it. And I think we can do that, but it's going to take a whole lot of hard work on top of all the other stuff we have already on the table.
My premise and what I'd encourage you to do in the mayor pro tem role is, choose 3 things that you're like, okay, this is the short, mid, and long term in relation to like 12 months, give or take. And I think one of which that we already know is how are we going to start communicating and actually working together as a team? And I think you should remember back to some of your earlier ideas that you and I worked on that didn't get legs, which are how can we communicate better through platforms and technology, through things like that where we're working. Then number 2, what's some low hanging fruit that we can execute, get a win, and feel good? And I agree with you on transit, but I think that the goal should be more something along the lines of like, we're not going to try to get the General Assembly on board with it. Let's go back and make the correct plan. Let's get, like, if we could do that, and then in the next council hand it off to execution, I think that would be a really good start.
This has been a great lightning round.
Thanks, Tariq. Tariq just took care of one of my phone calls for the week. So
boom, done. Hey, now listen, final question from me, right? And it's just the 3 of us. Okay. It's just the 3 of us. Now I know how you're already going to answer this, which is in true statesman-like form. I'm focused on today, this week's game, not next week's, all that stuff. You at least need to give your 2 friends here some kind of answer with a little more substance on what you think all this does and where your head's at in relation to whether it's 1, 2, 3 terms from now, the mayoral role and your next steps, because there is no way that hasn't crossed your mind at some level.
I got 3 kids, one is in high school, two in elementary school. I just started a new term. I got a new job that as in the mayor pro tem, that's going to take up a whole lot of time. I really am focused on that. But to your point, to your point, like you said, we only have a short turnaround. So from a political perspective, we all have to make decisions between now and in December, of course, on top of focusing on what we have on our plate. I, like you, I'm sure, are going to have conversations with the people that advise me and that are whose opinion I care about deeply in terms of my life choices. To figure out what is the right steps. But I have a lot of responsibility when a smart person that I talk to says when you approach you're anywhere near the top of any kind of hill, there are only a few different directions that you can go, and I don't want to go in that opposite direction.
Your advisor's very, very wise. Your number 1 advisor. Larken, let me ask you this as a normal, average, everyday citizen, probably below average. Do you believe, in all honesty, that this short term is actually in some sort of a mayor tryout as well?
I think there's probably, and this is on no inside knowledge because we've not had the conversation. I think there's probably a slightly better than 50% chance that Mayor Lyles runs again in 2023. I think 2025 is where she doesn't, if I had to guess. And then it's, all hell breaks loose.
But is this the tryout where
I think it's a 3-year tryout.
Okay. Who's in the lead right now?
I think Braxton's stock just rose on Tuesday, but the expectation is that Mr. Winston, Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Graham, Ms. Ajmera, Ms. Watlington, there's about half the council that's been rumored to be interested in the job. So whenever it opens up, it'll be interesting, or who knows? I don't know. There's at least one of those people on that list who's not on the show right now that I could see getting a wild hair and challenging the mayor. So you never know.
Wow. Interesting.
Stick around to find out.
Final thoughts from you, Braxton, Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry.
Well, look forward to Monday's meeting when I think we're going to have a nice update on Safe Charlotte. I think the community is and many of our council members, the number 1 priority is community safety. And we have to figure something out. We have to figure out how to better work with our partners across government We have to better connect with our grassroots folks that are on the ground in the communities. I think those are the folks that are going to help really solve those issues. And I look forward to starting off this term, putting our heads together to figure out how to ensure the safety of our community.
Well, congratulations to you, Braxton. Well deserved. I've told the people who've asked me in the last 2 days, some of whom very much disagree with positions you take. I said, at the end of the day, no one, even those who disagree with him most vehemently, questions his work ethic and his ethics. You put in the work, you are true to who you say you are, you do what you say you're going to do. I think that matters, and I think that paid off for you on Tuesday. So I'm proud of you. I'm excited for you, and congrats to Tariq as y'all start this term. I hate to not be there, but I'll be around, and never know, man.
Yeah, well, that sentiment is actually, I if you can imagine, I've fielded a lot of questions of why would you have voted for Braxton, and aside when you put aside the option pool and things like that, I think what Larken said sums it up. It was worth it to take a leap because of those factors right there about you. So we're happy for you, or happy for your mom and the moment she had this week, and your family and everything like that. So that's another.
I'm happy for our city council that we were able to come together and make a tough decision. Because anybody that tells you it was easy,
true statesman, true statesman. All right. Well, that's Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston on this episode, closing us out of R&D in the QC. I'm Councilman Tariq Bokhari, and Larken,
former councilman.
We're out.
On a temporary hiatus, Larken Egleston.
See you next time.